So I'm just sharing all this because all people in different situations face different kinds of challenges, and it's easy to run into those challenges, say I cannot do it. But what I've learned is that you have to keep pushing, you have to keep going, you have to follow your dreams. And my dream was to go to RIT, and thanks to my seniors who got me exposed to that. So I ended up at RIT, and I did finish masters in 9 months, which was 3 semesters. And guess what? After that, it wasn't clear how am I going to find a job in the US. Didn't realize that now I needed to fight for a work visa because you cannot find a job until you get a work visa. So I must have taken 100 interviews at least to find a company who was willing to sponsor a visa. More than that, again, I didn't want to do something that somebody else had done before. There's always something new. So as I'm sharing my journey, I also talk about what was going on in the industry at that time. So at COET, at the printing school, we learned offset for the most part. I think that's the case. Offset, gravure, very little exposure to digital because digital had not taken off at that time. I came to RIT, big focus on digital suddenly. Offset was still there, but that was a time where digital was just starting to pick up. I still remember Kodak, which was also based in Rochester, New York. They were starting to talk about film is going to go away, right, in 1997. So the digital cameras was just starting to come out, and the quality was still not great. You know, the DPI was still pretty low. But it's a belief of, hey, seeing where things are headed overall. So after many interviews, I found one job that again was an innovation side of it. There was the largest check printing company in the U.S. was struggling because in the U.S. people were using less and less checks. And as everybody knows, when you're using offset printing for printing checks, because of the cost involved in pre-press and making plate, you have to run long runs. You cannot produce 5 checks. If you're producing 500 checks, 1,000 checks, it's okay because it pays for the cost of the plate. So I joined this company because they wanted to say, hey, can you help us print checks on a digital printer? That was the mission. And I ended up working with Xerox, and we created the very first digital printer for Xerox that could use magnetic toner to produce mica on the checks. Now, as you can imagine, digital printer, that's when I started learning programming because checks, you have to change the numbers on every page. You cannot use the mechanical numbering machines to do that. So we ended up printing the first, it was called a DocuPrint 96, produced 96 pages a minute. And I still remember the day when we first started producing checks on it. And Xerox was fully involved. It was actually a PostScript front end that we used at that time. And from that day for the next 10 years, I was at Deluxe, the largest check printing company in the US, and helping them constantly go to US wide in multiple locations, switch over to digital. Fast forward to now, Deluxe is 100% digital. They have zero offset printing right now. So it's important to see how quickly the progression happened, and it was important to stay with the technology. The reason is because the other check printing companies that did not make that change either went out of business or Deluxe, our company, acquired them. So I went through 6 acquisitions because we were so ahead in technology that we kept acquiring companies through that journey. And so that was the 10 years in check printing, still in the printing industry. I actually got exposed to XPLOR for the first time. My boss at that time was an XPLOR member. Barry Green was my first boss in the US. He took me to XPLOR, and that's it, at that point. And what XPLOR is really, the mission is education. It's learning from each other's experience. It's a not-for-profit organization. It's not a company. We're here to share knowledge. And over the last so many years, it's amazing how much I learned from XPLOR. And eventually, I started presenting at XPLOR, and then became a board member along with Paul and Michael, and I'm sure they'll share their journeys as well. And I've never looked back. It's amazing how much we've gained from XPLOR and how much we've been able to give back to the community, mostly to the US for now, but I'm excited that now we can help in India start that journey as well. So anyway, that happened, and it was 10 years in check printing, and then it was time to do something new that nobody has done before. Again, by that time, I finished my MBA part-time, and I really wanted to do something totally different. For those who might have been to the US, may have heard of this company called Kinko's, which is now called FedEx Office. So Kinko's was about 2,000 copy stores, local printing and copying stores across the US. And it was a network of stores. You can walk in, you could use Photoshop, you can use Quark Express, you could create the documents actually printed over there. And what happened was FedEx was looking for retail outlets for shipping. And they felt like it would be great to buy Kinko's, where people are coming for printing. They will also drop their shipping boxes. So FedEx, I think everybody knows FedEx, it's the shipping company. They bought Kinko's. And they didn't know how to really handle a printing company. So they said, okay, let's hire a printing industry expert. And they came looking and they found me somehow. I joined FedEx and started to help with the printing side of the business. But they at that point said, hey, by the way, can you also handle trucks? And I'm scratching my head. I've never done trucks before. I'm like, what are you talking about? Because we were using trucks to make deliveries for all the printed jobs to different companies and so on. I said, okay, I obviously took it on. And it was a fascinating journey, both on the print side, and then I started to merge logistics with printing. And you might think, hey, how does that make sense? Well, I'm sure everybody's heard about the difference between print and distribute and print, right? Two different concepts. And for those who haven't heard, obviously you print in one place and you ship things out. That's print and distribute. And the flip of that is you distribute and print locally where you want to do that. So now I was almost like a kid in a candy store, because now I had 2,000. Trying to think, okay, how can I change, start to print in every location? By the way, now I have trucks. I can deliver anywhere as well. So Kinko's was known for customers who were walking into stores saying, hey, can you make me 2,000 copies and so on? And I'm thinking, no, I want to go after large companies like Walmart and Best Buy. These are large retailers. And it was one fascinating story that Walmart, which is the largest retailer in the world, largest, of course, in the US, they were about to launch a new product in their stores. And I had presented to them the whole concept of about distribute and print and distribute. They were about to launch actually iPhones in their stores when their CEO walked into one of the stores just the day before. And he was so unhappy because they were supposed to have flyers and posters in the stores, and they forgot. I got a call, and they're saying, hey, we're about to launch iPhones across the US in every Walmart store, and you had talked about fast printing. Is it even possible to have posters and flyers in every store in the US tomorrow? So as you can imagine, normal answer is, of course not, because you're going to offset print it, you're going to put it on a truck, you're going to ship it. It's like 2 months. There's no way. So we took the challenge, and what we ended up doing was we took the files, we did quick pricing, we got the project going. We put a team together that mapped out Walmart stores with our stores where we could print. We actually distributed the files across the US to every store, produced the flyers and the posters locally, and then had our local trucks, vans that we had, go deliver it to every store across the US. There were some places where we did not have the stores. That we produced in our store in Memphis. Why Memphis? Because for those who don't know, FedEx is based in Memphis. And in Memphis, there are all the planes actually fly into Memphis and fly out of Memphis every night. So we actually produced the posters, and wherever we couldn't deliver locally, we put it up on FedEx Express planes and delivered the posters. Long story short, in one day, next day, every store, thousands of stores across the US, we delivered posters and flyers over there. Why I love to share this experience is, first of all, it was a fascinating experience for us to pull that off. but it also highlights the fact that it's such a non-traditional solution, because we always think about offset printing, gravure, how are we going to produce packaging, newspaper printing, but there's a whole world out there to come up with innovative ideas, innovative solutions to solve real business problems that our customers are facing. So in this case, a customer came to us and say, "Hey, I've got a real business problem. Can you help solve this?" And we ended up doing that. So it's just one example I wanted to share that it's a great story. The other one I can also is that related to multiple stores that we had was customers would walk in and say, "Hey, can you make one binder?" But the next customer came in and say, "Can you make 200 binders?" It's a small store. They're making copies, and what we did was we ended up creating a hub and spoke model. And what that means is in every city, we took one of the stores and made it bigger and brought in large, fast, high-speed printers essentially. And that hub started to produce pages that were delivered constantly to the smaller stores. So the customer didn't even know that the production was actually happening at a different location, and we will bring it back overall. So I think fascinating experience over there. While I was doing that, I started to steer more and more towards logistics. We ended up writing a new app for a push-to-talk next-to telephone. This was before iPhones were developed. So now everybody's working from home. Everybody's getting things delivered at home. Well, after FedEx, I actually joined Amazon to focus on home delivery, because by that time, I was more and more into logistics. So home delivery is where I've shifted right now. But I think the lesson that the experience I want to share there as well is that just being open to what's coming your way. We often are constrain ourselves, block ourselves with the thinking that we have, and stop looking around on where the opportunities are overall. And although I've shifted to logistics and e-commerce and home delivery, I've actually helped Amazon launch home delivery worldwide, including India, China, UK, and the US. But I never wanted to leave my roots, and that's why I still want to always stay associated with XPLOR, and that's why I'm still going back to my dream of bringing some of the learnings back to India. So I think some of the themes there is that when it was time to shift over to digital, when it was time when the digital cameras were taking over film, when it was time now to see what our children are doing, which are they're constantly on smart devices, on iPads and iPhones. They are using less and less books. And so that's a reality that we have to face. I'm always back and forth between India and US. So culturally, the markets are very, very different. Canada is different. I've been in China and UK. Markets are very, very different. I was sharing with Paul and Michael that in India, I don't think newspaper is going anywhere. It's not going away, because that's part of lifestyle. Whether you're reading everything else online, you still want that newspaper and a cup of tea in the morning when you're getting up, right? So that's just, without that, you don't function. And there's some cultural nuances that are going to, I believe printing is going to stay for a much longer time in India, which is quite different from the US. US has rapidly moved away into digital media. And that's why I think XPLOR also shifted quickly towards that. We still focus on print quite a lot. But I think, Paul and Michael, this is going to force us to go back to what we used to do a few years ago, because that's still the present in India. So I was sitting in the Back to Future car and going back to sharing some of the experiences that I had. I didn't have presentation because it's hard to explain, share the experiences in PowerPoint. I just put one slide together to summarize. Let me see if I can share my screen quickly. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
It's coming out, yes.
Coming up, yeah.
Let me know when you see the.
Yeah,
It's
we
good.
can see it.
Great.
Yeah.
So Back to the Future, just really summarizing what I just shared here, especially for the students who's still in college, about to graduate, and they're going to go out and lead the industry forward. Just 7 tips that I'd like to give is: one is take chances. If you stick with the norm and the thinking, you won't be able to lead boldly and innovate. Which is the next one. When you see an opportunity, be the first one to take something on. A great example for today is Madhura taking this on. She's leading boldly, and to get this community together, it's a big deal. It's a big step forward. Be okay to do things for the first time, because there are many things that we have to learn from what the industry has done so far. But there are other things that we can come up with new ideas as well. And it's okay to challenge the status quo. And what I mean is that there are things that have been happening for many years. That doesn't mean that is how it's going to be in future. So we have to focus on the future. The only thing that's constant is change. And we know that everything keeps changing. Our environment has changed. Look at what happened with COVID-19. The fact that we are here on Zoom. But I also believe that if COVID-19 had not happened, we probably would not have thought about this format and be on Zoom like this. So it's important to lead change and embrace it, and also embrace how the technology is changing and see if we can stay ahead of that. Last but not the least is, as we're driving through this change, we should never forget where the roots are, which is, for me, it's such a big day today to go back and be with my really old family, which is the COAT and the PVG, the printing, where I started my journey on that as well. So again, I want to thank Madhura for this opportunity to come and share at least my experience and my journey here. With that, Madhura, I can take questions, or we can introduce and move to Paul and keep going. What would you like to suggest?
First of all, thank you very much for sharing this incredible journey. I think it's something that the students listening over here can take up from those words of wisdom which you've kind of shared with them, and take ahead from there. I think we can have questions if there are any, or do you all have any questions, students? Or you can put it in the chat box if you want to. Or we gradually, and then we can take it up at the end of the session. Anybody from the industry would like to share something on this, on what Manish said? Suhas or
amongst the students, is anybody feeling this way? Hey, we don't know where the future is, or you're still going through school trying to figure out what the next job is. Is there anybody who aspires to get out, go beyond India as well? Would love to have somebody raise a hand, and we're here to help with that. That's the reason I'm asking. So anybody who aspires to really go after the global market, we'll be happy to help there.
Yeah, there are a few students who wish to pursue a master's. And I'm sure they may have some questions, but students, if you feel, you can put it in the chat box, or you can simply unmute and speak. Yeah, Suhas?
Hey, Madhura. Hi.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. Good evening, Manish, and very good to see you here.
Great to see you as well. Long time.
Yeah. And it's very, very heartening to see you, support the institution, come back and talk to the students as well. And I think Madhura is doing a great job in pulling all this together. And good to see you also coming connected with the logistics and supply chain industry, which is actually soon becoming a very large industry, from what we are also seeing in Asia Pacific. And I think it's a very good connect that you have there between printing and supply chain and logistics, and with your experience in, even in FedEx. And I just want to share that with also the students that supply chain today is one of the largest growing segments, even in the packaging printing domain across Asia Pacific. So it's not restricted. So career is not restricted just to getting into a printing press or in that domain. So good learning there from Manish, and very happy to see him sharing his experience as well. So thanks a lot, Manish, and
Thank you, Suhas.
yeah, yeah, good. Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I will have to sign out because I have another call in another 10 minutes. Please go ahead.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Suhas, for joining. Suhas is also a great support for the college, and he keeps us updated with his not only professional talks but also philosophical way of thinking for the students and faculty. Thanks, Suhas.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think
So,
we'll move
yeah, what
ahead.
I can do is real quickly, I want to introduce the next three speakers and how are we related and what we've done together real quickly. So next up is going to be Paul, and Paul is somebody that I've looked up to in the XPLOR community as well because he actually led the XPLOR organization for many years. So he'll be sharing about that, and then Michael will also be sharing some of his experiences. I think why Michael is so important to this discussion also is because he's been helping actually with Paul. He's been helping Ryerson and some of the universities in Canada really become part of XPLOR, and it's amazing how much benefit the students and the professional community in Canada in the printing industry have gained out of it. And then the other speaker that I think Amit just joined as well. A little bit of the experience with Amit as well. Actually, when I went to RIT, I was doing my master's. This young kid showed up and he was doing his bachelor's at RIT at that time. So obviously we're from India in a foreign space. We immediately connected, and then since then we've stayed in touch. And he's, I think, got another fascinating story where I won't steal his thunder, but real quickly, he after a couple of years finishing his studies and working in the U.S., went back to India, and he's done something that is game changing in our industry. So that's why we thought it'd be great to have his perspective as well. Very different, where he actually went outside and came back to India, and how he changed the industry when it comes to what he did. Again, I don't want to share the secret yet. I will have him speak as well. But I want to hand it over to Paul. And I don't know, Madhura, if is somebody going to do Revati, is she going to do an introduction as well, or?
Yeah, is it okay? She'll just give a short
That'd be great.
intro, just a 30 seconds intro.
Great.
Paul? Yeah. So, Revati, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Paul Abdul sir is currently doing fractional business development for multiple firms in the customer communications management arena. He used his more than 20 years of regulatory communications industry experience to help customers develop and optimize their customer communication strategies with process automation, workflow solutions, and professional services. Recently, he was the Vice President of Sales for Doxin Inc. and Vice President of Enterprise Solutions for Solimar Systems Inc. Prior to that, he served as Director of Production Workflow Automation at Rycom. His experience includes consulting and sales positions with Icon, Cubra, Pitney Bowes, and National Paper Goods. He has been involved with XPLOR boards both in Canada and internationally, and started the student chapter program in 2010. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for that. I was loving the story I was hearing from Manish. I've known him for a long time, and I didn't know a lot of those stories, so it was good to hear. I think what's interesting for me at XPLOR is that there were very few people in our business that actually studied to be in this business. They were actually studying something else, and they evolved into this business. And I think that's what's important to understand, is that every business has to do some sort of transaction. They have to sell what they are doing. They have to communicate what they're doing and how it's competitive. And print has been a big part of that. I'm a very visual person, so this guy, I got this in my mail. He wants to sell some houses, right? So he sent me this, right? There's this. For those of you who don't know, I'm from Canada. I'm representing Canada today, so I had to show you. We have some hockey sticks that are for sale as well at a local sporting goods store, and it's winter time, so it's hockey season, so they're advertising that. And I think that it's so important to really take in that printing and communication in general is so important for business. I can't stress that enough. XPLOR, like Manish, I was introduced by a boss that said, come with me. He was part of a local chapter in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and he was getting too busy to help put on some events. So he made me do all the work, and then he took all the credit. But that was okay, because like Manish said, I was doing something that I hadn't done before, and I stretched and I learned. And I can honestly say, and I don't know if too many people at XPLOR can say this, that I've held every single position at XPLOR, locally and internationally. So if somebody has a question, they usually ask me, because I've been around since 1998 doing different things. So it's been very good for me. Another thing that's been very important, and I'll talk, I think it's a few sessions from now that we're going to talk more about the value of XPLOR, is every single job that I have had since 1997 came about because of XPLOR. So somebody saw me speaking, participating, just trying hard to learn, and they gave me a chance. And I credit that. I remember going to my first conference and feeling so stupid. All these people were talking about things I had never heard of. And then I said one day, I came home and I said, I'm going to learn these things. So what's really exciting for me is that not only did I learn them, but one of the things that XPLOR has, and we're going to send a book over to Madeira, is one of these. It's called the Electronic Document Body of Knowledge. And this really encapsulates everything that XPLOR has done over the years. And I didn't have to read it, because I wrote part of it. So it was nice to actually go past the learning into sharing the knowledge. So that's why we're here today. I'm going to share a little presentation with you. Just tell me when it pops up here. Can you see it? You can see
Yes,
it now?
Paul, we can
Great.
see. Yeah.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
so when we got together, one of the things, and Manish hit this a couple of times, he said that sometimes you just have to start something and take a chance and be bold. And I have started a few things at XPLOR. I started the first student chapter 10 years ago in Toronto. We have another one in California, and hopefully we're going to start one in India. And what we did is we said, we're going to do this, and we're not going to be perfect, but we're going to try really hard to be as good as we can, and from there share and learn, both on your side and our side. So today's subject was really, printing and the evolution of it in the future. Manish was talking about Back to the Future in the car. I'm going to go back and forth in the car, and I'm going to talk about the evolution of the print ecosystem. And the ecosystem, of course, means a large component. It's not just what is the end, what comes off the end of the printer and is consumed, whether it's a newspaper, advertisements, or a bill. It's what goes on in the business and how it's driving that business. And the business has to go past just what you're communicating out. It has to give your customer a feeling that they're happy that they did business with you, that you're easy to do business with, and they want to do business with you again. So that's the customer experience component and the ecosystem and the evolution. So I'm a big social media guy. So if you're on Twitter, you can follow me at Paul Abdul, and you can follow XPLOR International at XPLOR_int. And I'm using the hashtag today, Explore India. So I'm going to tweet out about this as we speak. And when people wake up in our part of the world tomorrow, they'll see it. So let's start with some definitions, because I think it's always important to understand context and a starting place. So for me, evolution is the gradual development of something, especially if it started simple and then it became a little bit more complex and changed forms. So an example of this is my son. So this is from a long time ago. You'll notice he has my XPLOR tag on this briefcase, and he was just having fun. Mom took a picture of him one day after I came home from work, and he's evolved. Now he's getting close to my height. I'm 6'3" or 188 centimeters, and he's grown really big and strong, and he can balance. He skates. He does short track speed skating, and here he is after a meet. I was very proud of him that day. But he's evolved from being barely able to stand up long enough for this picture to skate about 40 kilometers an hour around the track. And so it's great to see. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was not just the static printing that you see in advertisements or offers or coupons, but the transaction printing side. And the transaction printing definition for me is the printing of multiple transactions in a single document, capturing a specific period of time. So for example, if it's a phone bill, it's for the month of September, for example, or if it's any other utility bill or insurance document, it's for a certain period. It could be a month, it could be a year, etc. It depends on what it is. And so here's an example of a transaction document. And so the evolution of this really came from it being black and white. Really, we started calling it monochrome because you print black on white. You don't print black and white. So here's an example of a monochrome transaction statement that evolved to color. We live in color. We experience everything in color, and it does different things to the brain as far as taking in information and reacting and stimulating an activity or a reaction to this. So that color became important. Now, there was a time when color was very expensive compared to just printing black, and now they've come closer together as things have evolved and the technologies have evolved. So the other thing that happened was that color printing wasn't just about printing the same document in color for the sake of having color. It was to highlight specific information and then you'll notice the name of this sample is Color Trans Promo, and the trans is the transaction component of the document, and the promo is the promotion side of the document. So what you'll see here is that you can do all sorts of things to the document to make it more efficient for logistics by masking data. The barcode at the bottom could drive stuffing of an envelope with particular marketing pieces of information. But then it evolved even further to say, you know what, you don't even need those anymore. You can just put that promotional piece of information on the transactional document so that now you're saving paper or you're fitting the contents into an envelope that will work better. So that's an example of an evolution. A fairly simple one, but over time, printing in color was a challenge before we have come to almost master it now. Now, you get a bill or something in an envelope, and you think, well, it's pretty static. I read it, maybe you can even get it on your phone. But what would happen if you could combine these two or get them to work together? What then would happen in the evolution? So, for example, here is a augmented reality. And what this is a phone camera capturing information, keying off of an image to bring out a 3D image or a video. So if you can imagine me taking my camera, hovering it over a bill, and then what would happen next? Maybe a video would show up like this.
Hello, welcome to your SolarBank Visa statement. Here's your current balance and the date of your next payment. Here's your expected payoff time and total interest if you make only your minimum payment and incur no additional charges. Let's take a look at your transactions. Where did you spend your money last statement period? Your spending categories include groceries, gas, restaurants, and shopping. Now, let's get to your payback rewards. Here are your eligible purchases year to date, as well as the total spent with SolarBank preferred partners. Your annual reward will appear as a credit on your December billing statement. You can maximize your end-of-year reward by using your SolarBank Payback Visa card on all your everyday purchases. What would you like to do now? You can pay your bill online, or you can view this month's special offer. Thank you for using the SolarBank Payback Visa card. See you next month.
So you can imagine the possibilities of going right from the statement and being able to pay it, use some points to get something, or just see how things happen for the month. In addition, what if you couldn't see? What if you needed it to be read to you instead? So there are so many applications for this for people who are vision impaired. So where I'm going with this is that there's an evolution in everything, but even more so in the print side of things and customer communications. So there's kind of three different types that are generally accepted. There's a divergent, convergent, or parallel. And the divergent in sample A here, they're going apart from each other. So two different things that just have two different purposes, and they get different. Whether it was the film that Manish was talking about becoming completely digital, and we don't even have to develop a picture anymore. We can send it to a printer instantly, or we can just keep it in its digital form and share it. Or two things coming together, like the phone and the piece of paper, to create an augmented reality experience. or something just coexisting in parallel, whether it is that transaction document or making the choice to receive that bill electronically instead. So the evolution of print, as Manish gave us some background, and the background of XPLOR coming from this device that could all of a sudden digest data and turn it into something and output it on a piece of paper, was the beginning of it. And then from there, people said, I need to turn this into a business. I need to make this more efficient in my own business. Manish gave an example about the hub and spoke model. When you have that larger operation, you need to run it like a factory, like you're making a car or like you're making books or furniture. If you can make it faster and in an automated way, it's going to work out. In the late or early 1990s, Gartner came up with a concept called the automated document factory. And that's where printing and putting documents into an envelope with any particular information, whether it was a compliance information that had to be there or advertising or a promotion, it was assembled like anything you would do in a factory. And what was really good about it is that you knew exactly what your production was going to look like and how you could produce it. And I believe that's exactly what Amit Sahani is going to talk about later in his operation. The other part of it is that once you've produced these documents now, especially if they're in a digital format, people want to have a record of it. So document management came into place. And then it really evolved even further to the customer experience side of things, where people wanted to communicate back to you. What happens if there's a problem? What if I want to pay? What if there's something that I want to buy further or get a discount? How does it feel to be a customer and just receive a one direction communication as opposed to being able to interact, whether it's via your smartphone, with the piece of paper, or a website? So I brought together ecosystems here. And it's not important that you know what's on them. I just want you to know that there's a lot out there. So in the customer communication management systems, they are part of an overall customer experience ecosystem. And this really allows organizations to create and manage communications and interactions in one holistic way. For example, there's still lots of paper. You have bank statements, insurance policies, business correspondence, and there's paper within the ecosystem. But how did that come to be? Data came from various sources, whether it was you making a phone call or whether it was using data, information coming from a bank's overall system, or if you went to get that loan that Manish was going to get and they needed to tell him how much he owed them. All of this information starts from somewhere and needs to come together and be composed, and then that customer journey starts. It may be something that you're going to buy a house and you need to sign papers. They may send you the paper, or you can go into the bank and sign papers, or they may send it to you electronically now on the smartphone. You may have the ability to sign it right there. You may have to press a button that lets you accept different terms and conditions, and then it feeds information back into the system and records it. Now, as that evolves, and there's still paper even on the emerging ecosystem, where instead of having individual components, whether it was a composition tool, a printer, an inserting machine, an offset machine, all coming together individually, Now you have the ability to share this. There's a concept of a services bus, which allows you to use what you want when you need it. So instead of having to buy all of the software or an expensive printer or something, you can access what you need, print or send it somewhere that you need to. So it could be things such as information coming from a company that you're working with in a customer relationship management software. It could be their core business system. It could be a social media monitoring system that's looking at hashtags or who's doing what, or a call center. And that information can then be accessed once it all enters this data lake, and that information can be printed or consumed in different ways. So this is an evolution that we're seeing in North America. Europe is very much ahead on the electronic transaction side. But as Manish said, the paper's not going away, and it's running businesses today. So just to finish off, again, the evolutions from print to customer communication management to customer experience management, what we're seeing is some things come together and they're a divergent type of evolution, like omnichannel, where print, your computer, your smartphone are all coming together and working together or working with each other. The convergence side with print and digital, like the augmented reality, or parallel systems where it's just going off in a digital tangent and print systems are going off in a different one with digital inkjet printing. There's a big evolution out there, and it's yours to change and be part of. So thanks a lot, and congratulations for participating in XPLOR India's first event ever. And if you have any questions, you can certainly contact me via Twitter, as I said, at Paul Abdul, or on Insta, or you can send me an email as well.
Do we have any questions for Paul? And feel free to post the questions on the chat as well, or any topics that you'd like to hear more about.
No, I think it was an excellent concept that I think Paul has introduced all of us to, shifting from customer communications management to customer experience management, which is still in a very primitive stage here in India, but I'm sure it'll get picked up very soon, and will definitely, because it has to be, we have to somewhere at some point of time, since digital has kind of blown the entire world away, so we'd also have to race up to it and make sure that both these platforms, the media on print and the media on the digital, has to converge, as you have said, at some point of time. But I'm sure that won't be very far, and we'll get to see that. But thanks a lot for sharing this experience and sharing your this new concept with us. I think we have a question here, Manish.
Yeah. To see a question, I do want to, I think, highlight what Paul talked about, the evolution, which goes back to change is the only constant. We should expect, and I think if we want to stay ahead, we really have to see where the industry is heading and make sure we're prepared and we're actually leading that change as much as possible. The question that got posted was, what traits and skills do you think are necessary to be able to succeed in this industry? I can share mine, Paul.
Yeah, well,
it will be good for you to jump in as well. So I think it's a broad question.
Sure.
I think my view is it's a combination of first realizing what's in your control and what's not in your control. Because we quite often worry about things that we cannot really change. So, in obviously in Hindi we say, kismat hai. So kismat also applies, which is, your destiny, where you're heading. But the things that are in your control, I think focusing on that is important. We like I said, quite often worry about things that are not in control. What is in our control is to realize where the industry trends are heading, and then one piece that I'd say is constantly learn. Be hungry to learn more, and this is a great start, a great platform. If people who want to get involved and explore, it's totally up to you. What do you want to get out of this? The involvement is important. So I think that constant learning from other experiences is going to be important. In terms of specific things, I actually went through the curriculum for in lots of changes. Digital printing was not there. Big focus on color management that I saw. All those things will help. But I think in addition to that, some of the pieces that I shared is be open to things that are not necessarily being taught in class. So the class is really preparing you for the future. Doesn't mean that future is only what was taught in class. There's going to be more as you go out. And I think there's no limit. And then one other piece that I wanted to highlight is networking. It is very teach them. I still remember when first LinkedIn, for example, when it started, I joined LinkedIn. I don't think there's been a single day in the last 15 years or so I haven't logged in at least once. Why do I do that? Because anybody new that I meet, that's how you make relationships, and then 20 years from now, 5 years from now, you run into that person and you realize, hey, we actually talked about something. You never know where this is. So I think applying what you learn in school, open-minded, look for new things, and then networking is a big piece as well to succeed. So just some ideas. Paul or Michael?
Yeah, I love that. And XPLOR is exactly that. It's learning, networking. As I said, I've had 6 jobs since I joined XPLOR, and every single one came from XPLOR and from networking. But the first question about what traits and skills do you think are necessary? I think what's important is to be creative. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be an artist or somebody who's inventing something, but taking what you're hearing and how you apply it to the business that you're involved with. One of the things I would often hear when I went to some sort of conference or I sat down and people said, this is the best practice. This is the best way you should do something. And I questioned it a lot of times when I heard 3 or 4 things that seemed to conflict. And what I mean is that there's a level of best practice. You can, if you hear somebody say that person's rich, the person who has $1 billion is richer than the person who has $1 million, who's richer than the person who has $100,000. So it's one of those things that is relative. And I think it's important to understand how you can help where you are. So really applying that.
Yeah, I've got one comment to make, and I'm drawing this from my teaching at Ryerson. You want to be able to have that balance of design and technical. Okay, one of the things I learned from the contest is you can beautifully design a document, but it isn't very good technically, and you can have the most technical great document, but if the design is poor, it's still a crappy document. So it's really getting those two in balance. So if you can pick up a little bit of design savvy, and as well as the technical knowledge in print, you'll design some amazing documents. If you look at, and I hope we can do this a bit later on in our lecture series, we're going to look at the intercollegiate design contest with Ryerson and Cal Poly, and you're going to see some of the most amazing designs you've ever seen. But My job as coach is often to bring some of the technical side to the contest. And when you get those two things in balance, you create the most amazing stuff. Like, you know, Paul's talk about getting customer experience and getting early response and things like that. If you design it well, you'll get those early responses. So that's a real key aspect. And it's, again, it's getting those two in balance. It's a tough business that way, but hopefully we can show you some of that later on. But anyway, that's been my experience in the field. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Manish, can we just hold the questions for some time so that we finish with the presentations, and then at the end of it, we'll cover up the questions.
Sounds like good.
Yeah, okay, fine. So we'll just move on with the next part. And the next part is that we'll introduce the Pune Press Owners Association, and we have a small presentation from them. So I'll just share this presentation, and after that I'll request Ravi Joshi sir to speak on it. 1 minute. Can you all see this?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. जोशी सर तुम्हाला बोलायचंय का मी सांगू? रवी जोशी सर? Okay, fine. So हाँ जोशी सर, unmute.
Ice cream burgers, yeah? Ice cream burger, first one. 55 axis. Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Good. Good morning, everybody, and good evening to all my foreign delegates. First of all, I would like to introduce myself as Ravindra Joshi. I am the president of this Pune Press Owners Association. I am very proud to say that we have completed 100 years last year. This association was established. Hello.
Yeah. Please go on.
Can you show the presentation, please? Because it is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was established by 20 printers coming together to sort out the difficulties what they faced after the World War. At that time, there was scarcity of the paper. The problem was payment to the laborers, and the availability of the paper was the main problem. So they decided to come together and sort it out collectively. Next slide. How the Pune Press Association is working? We have got 5 subcommittees which are continuously engaged in administrating the entire affairs of the association. There is Mudran Sahitya Bhandar. It is a cooperative store for the raw material which is required for the day-to-day printing activities. Then there is a Mudran Prakash Committee, which we publish one monthly magazine, House Journal of our association. There is Education Committee, which conducts various programs for seminars, for knowledge sharing, and making our members aware of the latest printing trends. Even today's program also is under the Education Committee. There is also a Vastu Committee, which is it's building committee. We have got 2 buildings, 2 premises of our own in Pune city, and this committee is looking after all these regular maintenance and developments of these buildings. Then there is also a library and publication committee. The main focus of our association, object of our association was to impart education. And from that context, the library and publication was very important. So we have a very good collection of books on different aspects of printing technology. Well, Mudran Sahitya Bhandar, it is a cooperative store. And Manishji, taking from you that you always pursued that what is not been done, it should be done by you. With that, I feel I had an idea at that time to help the printer brothers to save their money in purchases. So what we did, we have decided or we are buying in bulk the raw material like ink, gum, or any other stuff what is required in printing in bulk quantity, and we get a discount from the vendors, and that discount is distributed to the printer brothers. It is not, we don't, our association don't use it, rather it is distributed to the printer brothers for their benefit. Next. This is house magazine of our association, which is for last 75 years continuously we are doing. As I told, education committees conducts many educational programs, seminars, industrial visits, sports tournaments like sports. Next. This is building committee. We have got a very good conference hall and we do a lot of our board meetings here. Also, we have got, as I rightly said, 2 buildings. And I'm very glad to share that one of the building now we are going to renovate it. We are going to have our own shopping mall. This is a concept that we will be having one shopping mall where you will get all the commodities required for printing industry, printing business under one roof. Also, very important object of our association now, or the main aim is to have a printing museum in Pune. I think every country, every nation has got one printing museum, but unfortunately, India is lacking in that. And the Pune Association has taken up this project and we'll be following it very rigorously. Recently, we have completed our 100 years program and we published one book called as Satamudra, which talks about our journey of our association. Even we have created one documentary film also in Marathi as well as in English language, which we will share with you after this program. Well, what association is mainly doing? Basically, as I said, imparting education, then helping the printer brothers in solving their day-to-day problems. They may be with the government, maybe with the administrative difficulties, maybe with the labor. And we are also helping, rather contributing in social cause. When there is a natural calamity, our association is there to help. Even we have got a corpus fund, or we have got a fund to support for any accident or anything, fire, something like that. So our association immediately helps the affected person. Next, madam. You can see this. This is the building which we are proposing for printing mall as well as the museum also. So let's see, within 2-3 years of time, we will be able to make it.
Yeah, so that was.
This is what the Pune Press Association is, and I would like to congratulate Mudra Mazan Madam and College of Engineering, which has taken this initiative to go with the XPLOR to again update and upgrade the students and make them aware that what printing is going to be in future. I would like to convey my congratulations to Mr. Manish Kapoor and the way what he amazing story he narrated to the students, and I think this knowledge you don't get in the college. So this was very important, and this is important for the students who are going to be in this printing industry. I really appreciate, Manish ji, your decision-making capacity, the ability to accept challenges, and then with passion, pursue it with a lot of patience. This is what I learned from you, and this is what exactly is required that all the printing students should follow. Mr. Paul has talked about evolution. He has rightly talked about augmented reality, printed electronics, artificial intelligence, and then he has narrated the importance of these aspects with customer communication and customer experience also. So these two sessions, which I really enjoyed and which are really, what you can say, guiding principles for the students, and I think the students are very lucky that they have joined this industry. They should be proud because it is the second largest industry in the world. So if they follow this, XPLOR can help them in their dreams to be achieved. So I wish all the best. And madam, once again, thank you for your this brilliant idea of getting connected with this XPLOR International. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, Raviji. Manish and Paul and Michael, basically, Mr. Ravindra Joshi is the most dynamic print expert, or you can say a printer, not only in Pune, but India. He has also been the president of All India Federation of Master Printers, and he literally put Pune on the, not only on the India map, and now I'm sure he'll put it on the world map also. So he has that tremendous ability to take people along with him, and it's not just the Pune Press owners, but it's also the institute which he has, like, kind of held together so that collaboratively the institute and industry support each other wherever required. So thank you, Ravi Joshi sir, for this, for your guidance and support.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Ravi Joshi sir, thank you for your kind words as well. It's our responsibility to give back to the students, right? Because we were there a few years ago. So we're not doing anything. This is our responsibility. But it's fascinating to see. Even I didn't know the association's 100 years journey.
Wow.
And it's amazing to see what's coming. The building looks awesome, and the printing mall and the museum. Once it's built, with Paul, Michael, let's travel to India together and go see it.
You're always welcome, sir. You all are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Revati, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. Our next speaker is Professor Michael Sutton, sir. He is Vice President and also the Chief Technology Officer at Spirit Victory Corporation. He was President at Savator Inc. It is an IT service company, works in gaming, entertainment, and electronic publishing industry. He was team leader and project manager for a print reporting team at Toronto. He is contract lecturer at Ryerson University. He teaches about variable data solutions. He wrote lectures on software and hardware solutions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. See if my voice holds up. Anyway, I'm Michael Sutton. I'm president of XPLOR Canada. Paul was a very tough act to follow, but that's okay. On a personal note, for me, my connection with India was my father was a British Army officer in 1947 during the partition, and he spoke fluent Hindi. He absolutely loved the country and the people. He tried to save as many lives as he could during the partition. He said it was an absolute terrible time, but he gave me my love of Indian food. So like I said, the difference between North American food and Indian food is Indian food has flavor. That's the only difference. Anyhow, anyway, for me, I had a 40-year career in digital print with the City of Toronto, and I really thought I was done. I was sitting at home kind of feeling a little bit miserable, not knowing what to do in retirement. I had a Ryerson student I hired, Nick Riedler, to replace me. He gave me a call to say, listen, there's been a medical emergency at Ryerson University. Can you come teach variable data? So I knew nothing about teaching, and 2 weeks later, after writing 10 lectures, there I was, stuffed in a lecture hall with 130 students, deer in the headlights. But it was an absolute amazing experience. I won't talk a lot about variable data. I actually will save the lecture, hopefully, for the next time we meet and talk about that experience. I will talk a little bit about accessibility, which is the other thing I taught at Ryerson University. Just to give you a little interesting story about how I ended up teaching accessibility at Ryerson. I had no intention of teaching accessibility at Ryerson. I'd used all the excuses that I was too old, not competent, not qualified, blah, blah, blah. I got stuck in a 5-week murder trial in Superior Court here in Toronto, okay? Madam Justice Malloy calls me to the bench just before she starts the trial. She's looking at my juror's brief and she says, "You know something about accessibility, don't you?" She'd read my brief, and I said, "Yeah, I mentioned I mentioned some of the legislation during one of my lectures during variable data. I do have one of my lectures is on the law about variable data. You have to be completely into the law." So she said, "Listen, I'll make you a deal. If you go teach this at Ryerson, I'll let you out of this murder trial." So again, 2 weeks later, I'm teaching accessibility at Ryerson. Again, I really don't know what I'm doing, but here we are. We write 10 more lectures, and I'm shoved out in front of these kids. But that was also a bloody amazing experience. And I learned so much about accessibility. And one of the things I do at Ryerson with my students is, with the chapter, is I take them up to the Canadian National Institute of the Blind Accessibility Lab here, the CNIB Accessibility Lab. And that's an absolute mind-blowing experience for these students. Now, you think about people being blind. What you find out is that for every blind person, there are at least 4 people that are visually impaired. So when you design things, you really need to be designing for the visually impaired. Like Paul talked about, we've got all these multiple communication channels now that we want to deliver, documents, print, web, mobile, to your clients. Well, now think about it. You need to also design, you also need to deliver accessible content. So this is a real challenge. So what we've learned at Ryerson and at Cal Poly during the contest is to really get into really good design for the visually impaired. So this is things like color contrast, using simple fonts, using simple design, okay? As people get older, we find, especially in North America, we've got an aging population. We say, the baby boomers are getting old. We've got things like diabetes. We've got other sight-related diseases. People's sight degenerates. There's different kinds of color blindness. So all these are factors in your design. So what you learn, again, is good design really counts. If you design things well, you're not only servicing the visually impaired, you're actually servicing your clients. We found out that good design gets people to feedback. You're sending out a document, you want them to send something back. Good design really counts. So I'm hoping to show you some of the things that we're doing in the design contest. I think it has a tendency to blow people's mind what these students come up with. We've got Ryerson and Cal Poly have competed head-to-head for 4 years, and it's been an amazing experience. It's the most well-attended event. When we run the XPLOR International Conference, it is the most well-attended event because everybody wants to find out how these students are thinking about things like good design and how you can put that into practice, especially with documents. All my job as coach is I sort of bring some of the technical stuff. Manish talked about Mica, barcodes, all those kind of things. I help them with the technical standards, and we blend it. If we blend it together, it's an amazing experience. So I would really like to offer that to your Polytechnic. I think there's no shame in participating, but I think the opportunity to learn so much about how to make effective documents, it's an incredible experience. So again, I think accessibility is here and now. You think how many visually impaired people are there in India? They exist. They need service. They need content. They need documents. Think about how you can service that group of people. Anyway, I don't have much more to say. I'll save it again for a little bit of a VDP lecture. And any questions, please ask me. Thank you.
And Michael, we're anxiously looking forward to next week's session. We'll do a deep dive on variable data.
Okay, yeah. Again, Paul's a tough act to follow, so we'll see what I can do.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I think we must really thank the judge for cracking that deal for you, and thank you for accepting that deal, so that you've kind of got the benefit today. And otherwise, so students, Michael Sutton has actually worked on many projects, as he said, accessibility for the visually impaired people, and in Canada. And he has also conducted for XPLOR Canada design competitions, and which he is eager to also hold it for us, for our students here. Michael, we have some very brilliant designers in our institute as well. And our brochure or the flyer which was made, that was made by one of our students. And most of the promotional stuff, and they got a good platform during this COVID time, where they could kind of display their designing skills. So we look forward to that competition as well, Michael, and thank you so
Okay.
much for this wonderful talk. So we move on to the next. We'll save the questions for the last bit. So we move on, Revati.
There's a question
Yes,
here. What
ma'am.
are the factors that affect good design? I can answer that one.
Yeah, sure.
You want me to answer that or okay. That's a really good question. One of the things I learned or taught, and I got help from the CNIB. They have a publication called a clear text design document, and that's really helpful because that helps you simplify designs so that you use good spacing, things like good font choice, color contrast, keeping it simple but keep it plain, keep it clear. And that really helps. Like, that's a good basic document. And I use that in my teaching. And the trouble is you tend to over design things. And the trouble is it may look beautiful to you, but you're not visually impaired. And if a design gets too cluttered or the fonts get too small or your kerning is poor or your spacing is poor, that document can be completely useless to a lot of people. So you've got to be really careful and they talk about the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. So that's some of the stuff I've used in my teaching. Just something like the clear text guide is a great help. So yeah, design is important though. Okay. But the idea is don't overdo it. Okay.
Right. Thank you. So Revati, over to you.
Yes. Our next speaker is Mr. Amit Sahni. Sir, Amit sir's experience is more than 20 years and it extends across several functions: strategy, marketing, and operational excellence. Amit sir led FCI from a 20 people quick print copy shop to a 600 plus strong team of customer communications management company. Today, FCI helps consumer facing business to better manage their outbound communications across channels, help them improve CX. Being an entrepreneur from an early age, Amit sir also has a few-year-old tech startup known as Smartbox to solve last mile delivery challenges with the help of technology. Smartbox is solving problems by making use of its proprietary smart locker technology for many industries and use cases for omni-channel retail, bank, 3PLs, residential office, and many more. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, everyone, for the time. Thank you, Manish, for introducing me to the group. I hope am I visible?
Yes,
Yeah,
Amit.
you are, Amit.
But,
Okay, great.
welcome, and we're all excited to hear about your journey as well.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. Appreciate it. And thank you, Madhura, for inviting me to speak to your students. What I've done is I have put together a brief presentation as Madhura had requested. So I'll just walk through that, and during that I will also explain what has been my experience. Let me just present my screen. Great. Manish and I go long back. I mean, as Manish was saying, I was an undergrad student at RIT, Rochester, New York, back in the late 90s when Manish was a grad student. And I graduated there in 1997, and with my bachelor's of science in printing management. And then after that, I was working for a few years in Boston in workflow management solutions, mainly for output devices to be controlled through software. And then I returned in early 2000s back in India. And now I'll just start the presentation part of it, and we'll talk while I'm there. So history is that FCI has been around for decades altogether, but my experience has been a little over 20 odd years, where this was more of a quick print copy shop kind of a business, wherein back in the 80s and 90s, businesses didn't have copiers, printers, and fax machines at every office. So they would typically go out to a service bureau to get that kind of work done. So that is what we specialized in, and we have 4 or 5 outlets in and around Delhi NCR to do that kind of work for many, many years. And that is the family business that I inherited in early 2000s. And that was the time in India, a lot of banks were growing, or private banks were setting up, insurances were growing, other financial services were coming up in India, utilities were getting privatized. So then we saw an opportunity, because quick print copy shop was slowly dying its natural death, simply because every office, all these devices had become so cheap that every office, every home had their own personal printer, copiers, fax machines. So there was no real need to go out to a service bureau for that kind of work. But at the same time, as all of these consumer-facing businesses were setting up in India, a lot of transactional documents were getting generated. So telecom companies were printing a lot more postpaid bills. Banks were sending out a lot of bank and credit card statements. Insurance companies, life, general, health, were sending out policies and policy servicing communications. And other kind of government and public sector organizations were also sending out different kinds of customized communication. It could be like Aadhaar letter or a health saving certificate and things like that. So that's the opportunity that we got, and we went ahead and set up our first facility in Gurgaon, just outside of Delhi. And then slowly and gradually from 2004 to all the way till 2009, we were able to grow and set up a pan-India infrastructure at 4 strategic locations in the country. So one was in Gurgaon, then in Navi Mumbai in western part of the country, then Kolkata in eastern part, and then Chennai in the southern part of the country. So, and then that has been our core business all along. Transaction print and mail is what we do day in, day out. So everything variable, everything customized. There is no traditional conventional print. Everything is digital in nature. So if you see, if you have a telecom connection, if you have an internet connection, if you have a life, general, or health insurance policy, or if you have a bank account or a credit card, the physical mail that you receive in your mailbox through couriers and posts, 60% of it is most likely produced by us if it comes from a private service provider, private bank, or a private insurance company. So that's the space in which we have been operating for many years. And so I'll just share a little bit of that experience, what our business is all about, what do we do, and I'll also share future, what does the future hold for us, because just like we had done one round of transformation in early 2000s, now we're doing another round of transformation because digital is a reality. Paper is going to be around, but less of paper will be around in the future. So this is an omni-channel world. So that's why I just wanted to share part of the presentation about what we do today and what we will be doing in the future. That I think should be more interesting to a lot of the students. So this has, really been our journey. As I was just explaining, going from a copy shop to a print and mail. And from last few years, we have been focusing a lot on, although print and mail is still 80% of our business, but 20% has started to come from customer communications management. And that is something, because it's digital in nature, it's not bound to only domestic market. World is our market now. And a few years ago, we started working in North America, and now we are operating in all possible geographies, although big piece of our business mostly comes from India or North America. So this is the history. I mean, and 16 plus years we've been doing all digital variable data printing, and 5+ years we've been focusing purely on digital communications, even though variable physical print and mail is still big core bread and butter for our business. And as you would have been all familiar with, our typical clients look like this, banks, insurances, utilities, telecom operators. Traditional infrastructure that a print and mail facility would use is things like this, offset presses, whether they're sheet fed, they're continuous feed, they're inkjet presses, they're laser cut sheet printers, roll to roll, inserting machines, things like that. Just a quick glimpse of a video. Are you all able to see all my screens, I hope?
Yes.
Yes, yes, Amit.
So digital print equipment looks something like this, because not a lot of people have seen them in action. So I just thought it'll be good experience for students to see it as well. So this is a typical inkjet press, roll to roll printing, everything variable in nature at 2000 pages a minute. It could be all static, black and white. It could be completely variable color based on the actual application. This could be, telecom bills. It could be insurance documents. It could be utility bills, things like that.
It's the big boys.
In this business, integrity and information security, integrity of documents, this is sacrosanct. It's very important. You cannot allow customer A's bank information to reach a customer B. So there's a lot of automation that happens in this business, wherein it's preferred not to manually insert these documents to envelopes. So there are machines that do that. So I'll just play that video as well.
I used to sell those ones, Amit. That's a big one.
These type of machines allow you to, intelligently collate, fold, insert, create an envelope, and throw out a final finished mail piece, which can then be injected into the mail stream, whether it's postal service or whether it's courier. Unlike in the Western markets, in India, a lot of the transactional documents are delivered by local couriers and regional couriers. So this is just to tell you a little bit about what is it that we do, what kind of infrastructure is used in this business. And what is most important in this business is information security. I mean, that is one field a lot of students in the print industry ignore. But as you know, everything in the future is going to be hyper personalized, and digital is going to play a role everywhere. Even offset presses are digital with personalization as we go, or pure digital presses like we just showed you. So data is going to be everywhere. So it's important to ensure that you protect that information as well. So a lot of students should definitely have some sort of focus around information security. That's a very big domain, and there is a need in every business to protect information, whether it lies on paper, people, processes, servers, computers. So we do that with various compliances that are in place. 27001 is a basic international format of information security. Then there's SOC 1, SOC 2. If you work with healthcare customers, especially in North America, you have to be HIPAA compliant. If you have credit card information, you have to do PCI DSS compliance. So it's a good idea to think about information security as well, even though it's not directly related to the print industry. But going forward, since a lot of digital will play a big role in printing, students should definitely explore information security as one area of specialization, because there's definitely going to be a need all over in information security. And this was our past. I mean, we have 4 facilities running this kind of infrastructure in India, producing 1 billion plus pages every year, and mailing it out to consumers. But obviously, as the writing is on the wall, physical print and mail will slow down and continue to decline as digital takes over. But the quantum of communication will only multiply, simply because there's so many more channels to communicate on. From digital channels are no longer only email and SMS. It's on WhatsApp to mobile app to web portal to your Alexas of the world. Everything is digital, and everything is listening and talking, and integration possibilities are there. So it won't be very surprising in few years from now if your bank statements reach you in form of a personalized video explaining you your balance, or penalties if you have an overdue, or you take a health insurance policy, a video lands up and explains you your entire health plan that you have signed up for. Or if your Alexa speaks to you in the morning, reminding you of your bill due date and things like that. So the world is going to be omni-channel, I feel very strongly. So print is obviously going to be around, but less of print is going to be around. So we have to be prepared as students getting into the market now, that print is surely very important and gives you a base to start with, but you have to integrate digital as part of your whole offering. Whichever industry you choose, digital is going to be around. So that is why a few years ago we also started to change our business one more time, and we have been reasonably successful. I won't say very successful, but we are on that journey now, wherein omni-channel digital communications is the future, and that eventually will lead to a superior customer experience. So as Paul was explaining in detail, I could directly relate to every word he was saying. CX is the game now in this market. So this is what we do. We offer cloud applications to provide CCM as a service. If there are larger enterprises that still do not go on cloud, we can deploy CCM at their premises as well. So especially, it's very true in cases of banks. And you'll be surprised, the customers in India, the tier 1 larger banks and insurances, are very forward-looking. They are adapting digital in a big way. As a matter of fact, my personal experience is they're much more ahead than North American customers when it comes to digital channels. So especially the private organizations. So this is where we're spending bulk of our time and energy in now to create a truly holistic omni-channel experience for our customers. And this business has so many directions it can go in, because communications are no longer just paper converted into a PDF and pushed to a customer. It is now expected that everything should be bidirectional in nature. Everything should be dynamic. If there are, if Manish and I and Paul, we all have different spending habits, different purchasing habits, different age groups, and different you know uh, uh, spend patterns. Based on that, their service provider has to push the relevant content to them, which will help them in cross sell and upsell to those uh, consumers in a very personalized fashion. And all of us have different needs, and all of us have different channels, and all of us prefer different languages. Maybe Paul is in Canada, he might also receive a lot of information in French, whereas that might not be relevant to Manish in California. So hyper personalization, channel preference, language preference, all of these play a big role before you think of an output. Output is going to be very secondary. A lot of artificial intelligence is going to play a big role. Before even you produce a communication, you would know that this person is a likely candidate to buy something or not, because there is so much data that over time these businesses are harnessing and collecting, that they can already predict that 5 years from now, I will probably buy a health policy for my child because he's probably going to turn 12 or something like that, simply by looking at the historical trend of what is it that we've been buying, selling, using from our service provider. So that's where we are headed, and our focus is that. And I think the new generation, would definitely integrate digital as part of their knowledge and experience. Manish and I very well know back in the 90s when we were at RIT, hardly any courses were on digital and variable. I still remember my 4 printing processes were offset, screen, gravure, and flexography, and a little bit of color management. But everything that we do is pure digital. It's all variable in nature. And so that's going to be for you guys as well. If you study print and even digital print, think even non-print. Definitely print and digital print are very important. Even if you're thinking of industries like flexible packaging or packaging, but digital is going to play a role everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised why Coca-Cola or Pepsi, even if they are packaging users, they would not have some role of communicating through digital channels. So definitely learn about print and digital print, but integrate your knowledge with digital for sure. And there is a lot that you can do in communications and experience space. You need to focus on what are your strengths in which areas you have most interest in. But that's my 2 bits that I wanted to add. If there's any question now or later, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. This was great. Amazing to learn about your journey. And then again, you've been a pioneer driving the transaction printing in India. I remember back then I was thinking about doing something like that. Then I found out, wow, what you did in the last few years is pretty amazing.
Thank you, Manish.
So Madhura, we're almost out of time, but there are a couple of quick questions. I think Amit already addressed the next question, which was digital printing, where it's headed and how is it occupying. He's already addressed that. There's also a question about what's the impact of COVID-19 on the printing industry. My view is actually it is going to speed up the transition to digital, because all of us would not be on Zoom right now if this wasn't because of the pandemic. So I think the transition to digital is going to speed up. Some of the habits like work from home and how we get the digital information, some of that will go back to how we used to be, but a lot will stay. It will become a new habit now. So I think some of these changes are permanent as well. And then the last question was what are you looking for when you're hiring people? I think again it's a broad question, but we tend to think, especially in engineering, that what we're learning technical is so important. That is important, but I think it's also the behavior side of it. It's how much you want to learn, how well you adapt to a certain culture within a company. So the non-technical aspects of it, the behavior, your ownership of what you want to do, all those are equally important, and most employers look at that when during the interview process. So, Madhura, I want to hand it up back to you. I know we're a couple of minutes over. Any more comments you want to add?
Yeah, I think great. That was an excellent start from all of you, and I am sure we've almost made it on time, and we've kind of made it ready for Paul to go back to bed for the day. It's 1 a.m. In Canada, and he's like as fresh as he could be, I think, in the morning as we are here probably. So thank you so much. There is another question. If you want to take it, what will be the future of? We can just take one last question. Future when artificial intelligence gets into printing industry almost all over the world. So anybody wants to take that?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So definitely artificial intelligence will play a role in every industry, and so is it going to be in communications as well. I mean, with artificial intelligence, when you push an outbound communication to your customer, you, with the help of AI, you can have intelligent bots servicing the customer without having to have an agent answer every query. For example, if you might push some content on a mail or a WhatsApp to your customer, but an AI-powered bot could answer a lot of their queries. If you have a dispute on your credit card invoice or your utility bill, you want a previous 3 months document, an AI bot could understand a natural language, and with integrations to a CCM platform, it can generate these communications and push back to the customer. So this is just one of the use cases of how AI is going to play a role in communications industry as well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be around for the printing industry.
I'll add to that quickly is artificial intelligence is helping with simple things such as proofreading. If you're starting to put together documents and there's legal language that's required across an entire line of business and a change is made, instead of having to go back and look at 100 different documents, you can run it through an artificial intelligence engine and it can find the discrepancies or the changes that were made. And that could really speed up the time to production for some of those types of documents.
Right. So there are a few industry people also who have joined. Would anybody like to share something? Patharkar sir? Vijay Patharkar sir is basically an R&D from paper industry. So I don't know, we've all been saying paper will not be around for a long time, but I'm sure he'll have a different take on it. Sir? Probably he must be in his factory, I think. Yeah, he must be in his factory. He has to unmute himself. Okay, maybe next time. Fine. So, but he was very happy, and when I shared this, and he was eager to connect with all the people for the session. So, I think with this, should we close today's session?
Madhura, it'd be one thing. So there's a really, really important question, last one, that I want to make sure we don't miss it. Somebody's asking, hey, what aspects of Indian background do you feel would be biggest obstacles for someone making a transition to the career field? I think totally opposite, which is the strengths. Let's talk about what strengths do we do as an Indian coming out of that you have. I think the journey from when you're born, childhood-wise, because of the high population, because of lack of facilities that you have, you are, I think we're trained to adapt to the situations much better. Really, really simple. Just what comes to my mind is we've been getting power outages in California because there's lack of power. In 1 hour power outage makes big in the main channel news. right? And people like start complaining as if, the earth is falling apart. But I remember growing up, it was a daily affair. We didn't even care at that point. So I think the perseverance that you all have been going through right now, it's huge. So I don't think there's anything that holds you back. It's the mindset. We have to stop thinking about that because of your background, there's any reason why something will hold you back. That's not the case. It's up to you how you move forward. It's up to you how you have self confidence, you believe in yourself, because that's the most important. If you stop believing in yourself and doubting yourself, that's the only thing that can hold you back. So it's not about the culture. It's your mindset that you have to really think about the strength that really being in India, not just India, in any background that you have. People really across the globe, even in the U.S., not everybody is well to do when they start. And there's so many stories that people who had nothing but really rose up, and including I'd say last president, Barack Obama. Everybody knows his story as well. He grew up in Hawaii, and he was brought up by his grandparents, and he was able to get to most prestigious college and become a lawyer, all the way to becoming president of of the U.S. It's what you believe in, and how do you come out of things that are holding you back. Just I wanted to share that. I thought it was an important question.
Yeah, just a quick touch on that. And one of the things that is a big movement in Canada is diversity and inclusion. And, we've embraced a lot of immigration, and I'm Exhibit A. I was born in Guyana in South America. My parents immigrated there, and it was hard at the beginning. And I was the first person to go to university for my family. And my daughter started her first day today. So it can happen. And I think besides that, I think people want to help. And as long as you have the right attitude and you're going to work hard, everybody loves that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful answers. Yeah,
Morning,
Sanjeev?
Madhura.
Yeah, Sanjeev. Yeah.
I couldn't hold myself, good morning to all. I couldn't hold myself in the concluding time. One thing I liked very much was Manish's 7 pointers, and I think the need of the time, what he said, his first statement was take your chances boldly. So all the students, I think, should take home that point very seriously. And it's amazing, and it's very inspiring for me, being into the industry for such a long time, to hear Mr. Amit's journey. Being in Delhi, seeing from a photocopier house traditionally, then to a transactional printing, and then to do AR. So this journey itself, if somebody is able to graph it down, would inspire a lot of students. And one thing, apart from the technical things, what I believe students are taking back home is what these inspirations and these very things will, I think, is the need of the time and will take us through this change. That's all. Thanks. Thank you very much. It was very informative. Thank you.
Sanjeev, thanks for your
Thank
word. For everybody else, just to let you know, Sanjeev was the very first batch of engineering out of the same college students that we talked to. So he was our senior.
So
So
Manish, today
good
I
to hear
was
your
a
voice again.
student here. I didn't want to put. I was in a mute, and I wanted to be a student and to unlearn, to learn so many things. And I'm glad I did learn a lot of things from you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Sanjeev is also a great support for the institute professionally and philosophically, as you know. These are all mentors for our students as well. So I think we have a short formal vote of thanks by our one of our faculty members, Shrikala Kannade. So Shrikala, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Director, Dr. S.P. Redekar, sir, Mr. Manish Kapoor, Mr. Paul Abdul, Mr. Michael Sutton, Mr. Amit Thani, Mr. Ravi Joshi, our most valued invited guest, faculties of the department, and students. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of PVG's College of Engineering and Technology, our team, and extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for giving today's session, for sharing excellent experience, findings, and opinion of their own career journey. A very big thank you to Mr. Manish Kapoor sir for bringing Explore International to PVG's COET. It is going to be a very beneficial for our students and our industry partners. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Mr. Paul Abdul for giving excellent coverage of customer experience management and importance of networking and constant learning. Further, we are grateful to Mr. Michael Sutton for demonstrating his experience and looking forward to hear more in coming sessions. Thank you, Mr. Amit Sahani, for showing future of print. Digital is the future, and variable data printing plays an important part in the coming future. I'm also very grateful to Mr. Ravi Joshi for constant support and encouragement. I would like to thank all the industry professionals for attending today's session, and I hope this collaboration will go a long way. Thank you, students, for attending today's session. You are the future of print industry, and we are giving you insight of your future. So I'm sure you have a lot to take from these sessions. I extend my thank you to all the faculty members of Department of Printing Engineering. Finally, I would like to thank Revati for a crisp anchoring, and our HOD Madam, Professor Madhura Mahajan Madam, for arranging such a wonderful session for our college and for our students. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
विनयजी तुम्हाला काय म्हणायचं आहे का? अनम्यूट करायला लागेल. People are a little not. Yeah, they don't know Google Meet much, controls on Google Meet. That's the problem.
I know, they're all different.
Yeah, he is also one of the member associates of Pune Press Owners, and very supportive, Vinayji and Tirtharaj Joshi. I think both of them were very happy that we were arranging this. Yeah, Joshi. Karaskar sir, bola. Unmute झालाय, बोला.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for this nice session. All speakers are nicely spoken, and this is helpful for all students and our business fraternities. Thank you very much, and we are eager to attend next sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, bola. Yes, sir.
I request you, this recorded video, please put on your YouTube, so I can put this also to our paper industry people. Okay.
Sure.
Because these are all our customers, and we also understand what is happening in this industry, and we can educate ourselves through this. Okay. So,
definitely.
So please put it and let us know also. Okay. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. So, Manish, I think, should we conclude, finish it?
Yeah, I think Paul and Michael need to go to bed now. It's past go to bed. But really enjoyed the sharing. This was a great start. Looking forward to the next one. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good morning and good evening.
Yeah.
Right. And good night to you. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.